This is the creature we call the axolotl, a fascinating amphibian that's critically endangered in the wild. Hello, I'm Shafiq, and I'm on a mission to uncover all the secrets that nature has hidden away in its most unique creatures. And one of those secrets pertains to axolotls, or as I like to call them, the Peter Pans of the amphibian world. Now, as someone who's spent more hours than I'd like to admit watching these adorable creatures in aquariums and occasionally daydreaming about having one as a pet, I think I'm qualified to talk about this. So come with me into the mysterious world of axolotls and see how they've managed to capture our hearts while simultaneously teetering on the brink of extinction in the wild. You know, when I first stumbled upon axolotls in a nature documentary, the one thing that always fascinated me was how these little guys seem to have found the fountain of youth. I mean, have you ever tried to stay young forever? It's impossible for us humans. Now imagine being a creature that can regenerate almost any part of its body and never really grows up. Not a bad deal, right? So I'd like to talk about these amazing axolotls. They're nature's ultimate Peter Pans, forever young and incredibly resilient. But here's the kicker. While they're thriving in captivity, wild axolotls are critically endangered. How did this happen? Well, it's a bit like having a character from a fairy tale trying to survive in the real world. It's not easy, and there are a lot of challenges. Today, I'm going to dive deep into the world of wild axolotls and their fight for survival. Because, as it turns out, being able to regrow your limbs doesn't make you invincible to environmental threats. It's like having a superpower that doesn't work against your biggest enemy. In this case, human activity and environmental changes. I'm going to show you something. Look at this. You might think axolotls are doing fine because you see them in pet stores or research labs. But the reality for wild axolotls is quite different. They both exist, but their lives couldn't be more different. How? Wild axolotls are found only in the canals of Xochimilco, a network of canals in Mexico City. That's right. These little guys are Mexican natives, not some exotic species from a far-off land. Think of it like finding out that unicorns are real, but they only live in Central Park. It's that specific and that amazing. Instead of thriving in their natural habitat, wild axolotls are struggling to survive. Their population has decreased dramatically over the years. In fact, some estimates suggest that there might be fewer than 1,000 wild axolotls left. That's fewer axolotls than there are words in this script so far. It's like having a whole species living in a small town, and that town is rapidly shrinking. But why the difference between captive and wild axolotls? Well, it comes down to environmental pressures and human activity. Let me explain. In captivity, axolotls live in controlled environments. They're like pampered celebrities. Perfect water conditions, plenty of food, no predators. It's axolotl paradise. But in the wild, it's a whole different story. Wild axolotls face a multitude of threats. First, there's water pollution. The canals of Xochimilco, once crystal clear, are now murky with pollutants from Mexico City's urban sprawl. It's like trying to breathe in a room full of smoke. Not great for your health, right? Then there's habitat loss. As the city expands, the axolotl's home shrinks. Imagine if your house kept getting smaller every year. That's what's happening to these little guys. Now, let's get into the nitty-gritty of axolotl conservation. Don't worry, I'll keep the jargon to a minimum. I'll promise not to throw around words like neoteny or pedomorphosis more than absolutely necessary. Oh, wait, I just did. Well, since they're out there, let's learn more. Axolotls are neotenic salamanders, which means they retain juvenile features into adulthood. It's like if you kept your baby face forever, but also never lost the ability to regrow your teeth. This unique trait has made them invaluable in scientific research. They're studied for everything from tissue regeneration to cancer research. But this popularity in labs and as pets has a dark side. It's led to overcollection from the wild, further endangering the species. Conservation efforts for wild axolotls are ongoing, but it's an uphill battle. Some organizations are working to clean up the canals of Xochimilco, trying to restore the water quality to something that doesn't resemble a muddy puddle. Others are focusing on captive breeding programs, with the hope of one day reintroducing axolotls to the wild. It's like running a dating service for salamanders. Swipe right for genetic diversity. But how do these conservation efforts actually work? Well, it's a multi-pronged approach. First, there's habitat restoration. This involves cleaning up the canals, removing invasive species, and trying to recreate the conditions that axolotls thrived in historically. It's like extreme home makeover, but for an entire ecosystem. Then there's education and outreach. Many locals in Mexico City don't even know that these unique creatures exist in their backyard. Raising awareness is crucial. After all, you can't save what you don't know exists. This difference in awareness reflects a broader issue in conservation. How did it develop? Well, for a long time, axolotls were seen as just another weird animal. They were collected for curiosity cabinets and scientific study, but little thought was given to their conservation. It wasn't until the late 20th century that people started to realize these smiling salamanders were in trouble. Then came the pet trade boom. Axolotls became popular pets due to their unique appearance and relatively easy care requirements. Anyone remember the axolotl craze on social media a few years back? Fun times. I learned that while this increased awareness of axolotls, it also put more pressure on wild populations. Not ideal when you're trying to save a species from extinction. Now, with the push towards conservation, researchers and conservationists are innovating with new techniques. They're using environmental DNA sampling to track axolotl populations, creating artificial habitats, and even exploring the possibility of assisted migration. It's a nod to how far we've come, from the days when we'd collect animals without a thought for their survival, to now when we're using cutting-edge science to save them. But don't forget the historical context. When I first learned about axolotls, I found that they've been important in Aztec culture for centuries. The name axolotl comes from the Nahuatl language and roughly translates to water dog or water monster. They were even associated with the god Xolotl, the god of fire and lightning. It's like finding out that your favorite mythical creature is real and living in your local pond. The decline of axolotls is not just a loss for biodiversity, it's a loss of cultural heritage. The Aztecs used axolotls for food and medicine, believing they had healing properties. While we don't eat them anymore, thank goodness, we're still learning about their incredible regenerative abilities. It's not just about saving a cool-looking salamander, it's about preserving a piece of living history and potential medical breakthroughs. Today we're standing on the edge of a precipice. The fate of wild axolotls hangs in the balance. The advancements in conservation biology have given us tools to fight back against extinction. But it's a race against time. Because if you think saving a species is hard, try bringing one back from extinction. Spoiler alert, it's basically impossible with our current technology. So what's the takeaway from all this? Axolotls are more than just cute faces with frilly gills. They're a unique species with incredible potential for scientific research, an important part of Mexico's cultural heritage, and a stark reminder of the impact we have on the natural world. The difference between thriving captive populations and endangered wild ones highlights the complex challenges of conservation in the modern world. Whether it's through habitat restoration, captive breeding, or increased awareness, what's important is that we act now to save these amazing creatures, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to tell future generations about the time we almost lost the smiling salamanders but managed to bring them back from the brink. Imagine trying to explain to your grandkids why we let these incredible animals disappear. But I think after hearing about these conservation efforts, I would be really excited to show them a picture of a wild axolotl and say, "Look, we saved them!" Well, that's it for this video. Let me know in the comments below what you think about these fascinating creatures. Have you ever seen an axolotl in person? Or maybe you have a favorite conservation success story. No judgment here, we're all nature nerds together. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of axolotls, be sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any more wildlife adventures. Big thanks to my patrons for literally making this video happen. If you'd like to support the channel, you can help me keep exploring the weird and wonderful corners of the natural world. Until next time, keep your eyes open for the extraordinary in nature. And remember, every species is worth saving, even the ones that look like they're always smiling. Goodbye.